Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te. So as you know, we'll be continuing our study of Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. Of course, you know that Karma Yoga was not introduced by Swamiji. It is for thousands of years in our culture, and Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be the best manual for that. But the speciality of Swami Vivekananda's explanation is that, first of all, it is in English, so even English people who don't know Indian languages can understand. And as he explained in his own inimitable way, the special power which these persons have. So we've covered a lot of ground. Today is the 6th discussion and we are nearing the end. So we will discuss today a very important point which Swami Vivekananda makes and which he had learned from his master Sri Ramakrishna himself. So chapter in Karma Yoga which we will discuss today, that original title is We Help Ourselves, Not the World. So we have to understand this, why Swami Vivekananda has said this and what place it has in the science of Karma Yoga. So like any other yoga, the aim of Karma Yoga is also to gain spiritual knowledge of our real nature, knowledge of God, and thus become free. So we have seen earlier, just to sum up some points so that we can connect it with today's discussion. Swami Vivekananda said this knowledge is inherent in man. It is not something which is to be created. All work is simply to manifest that knowledge, not to create that knowledge. So all the actions that we see in the world, all the movements in human society, all the works that are going around us are simply the display of thought, the manifestation of the will of man. Any direction you take, an architect, suppose he wants to build a new design building and all, first what he will do? He will think about it. Think, have a plan, he'll make out the details. So it is all coming from his mind. Then when he sets about to work, his body, that also is proceeding from his thoughts. So without that will, there can be no work. And how is this manifested? This willpower, Swami Vivekananda says, the greatest manifestation of this willpower is through self-control, self-restraint. Because our nature is always going in one way. Like through physical examples, if we see, when we build a dam, so what are we doing? We are restraining the water. The water would have flowed, all the energy would have wasted. We are restraining, channelizing. So all the power, water which is behind the dam is what? It is full of kinetic potential energy. As soon as you release it, all the energies becomes manifest. But if there was nothing to stop the water, it would simply have flowed and all it would have been wasted. Just a small example. Similarly here also, our powers are on the whole being wasted because they are going in 10 different directions. Once we channelize, first restrain the power, then channelize. That is what Swami Vivekananda says. So this self-control, self-restraint in time it produces a mighty will, a character which makes a Christ or a Buddha, he says. So this means this willpower is developed by, if it is self-control, then it is also unselfishness. Because human nature is to be selfish, that inherent, it is inherent in us. So once we control that selfishness, then we are controlling that power also. So if a man works without selfish motive in view, he actually gains the highest result. What is that result? Spiritual illumination. So unselfishness means nothing but doing good or helping others. So we have seen in our last discussions that Swami Vivekananda has said, Karma Yoga means even at the point of death to help others. Now, even with regard to this helping, many things are to be learned. This is sure that unselfishness and doing service to others is a cornerstone of Karma Yoga. But how to do this help? So let us see what Swami Vivekananda says. Because if we don't study in the right perspective, we can become confused. Sri R Krishna, when he had gone to meet that great scholar and philanthropist Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Sri R Krishna had said to him, man cannot really help the world. So we will think that what Sri R Krishna is saying something else, Swami Vivekananda is saying something else. Not at all. So let's see what do they mean. Too much sound. So Swamiji says, when discussing this point, our duty to others means helping others, doing good to the world. Why should we do good to the world? Now the obvious answer is to help others, be charitable. It is good to be charitable. You will bring about some changes in the world. You will help to make the world a better place. But these reasons won't stand in the light of logic. We will see how. So apparently our help is to help the world. But actually it means to help ourselves. We should always try to help the world. That should be the highest motive. In this there is no dispute. But if we consider well, then we will see that the world does not require our help at all. This world was not made so that you or I should come and help it. So Swami Vivekananda says, explaining this, I quote him, I once read a sermon in which it was said, all this beautiful world is very good because it gives us time and opportunity to help others. This is very much there in Christian sermons, you will see. Oh, be charitable, or you should do good to everybody so that slowly everything becomes good. So he says, apparently this is a very beautiful sentiment. But is it not a blasphemy to say that the world needs our help? Is it not a sign of egotism? We cannot deny there is much misery in it. That is true. To go out and help others is therefore the best thing we can do. But in the long run, we will find that helping others is only helping ourselves. Sri Ramakrishna, as I have said just now, when he went to Vidyasagar. So Vidyasagar, we can say he was a divine soul. We have discussed his life. There have been 2 discussions. Those who have not, those Julian and all, you can see in our YouTube channel. His he was an incredible person, unbelievable. The combination of that kind of extraordinary intelligence with that kind of humility and feeling for others and service has rarely been seen. He was practically a godlike man. He was so great that Sri Ramakrishna himself had gone to see him. So to him, Sri Ramakrishna said, man cannot really help the world. God alone does that. He who has created the sun and the moon, who has put love for their children in parents' heart, endowed noble souls with compassion, and holy men and devotees with divine love, that God helps the world. But the man who works for others without any selfish motive really does good to himself. How? He himself says to Vidyasagar in explanation. How does he good to himself? He tells Vidyasagar, by these philanthropic activities you are really doing good to yourself. If you can do them without attachment, your mind will become pure and you will develop love for God. And as soon as you develop that love, you will have the vision of God. So otherwise, if some big person says after building a hospital and something, he says, oh, how much I have done, see, my name is there on all these signboards. So to these people, Sri Ramakrishna says, you people speak of doing good to the world. Is the world such a small thing? In the general, if you take the whole world as a whole, what little help we can do? What can we do? Hardly anything. What can a single man do? So is the world such a small thing? And who are you, pray, to do good to the world? First, realize God. See Him by means of spiritual discipline. If He imparts power, then you can do real good, not otherwise. Otherwise, you will do something and your name will be there in the newspapers and television and you will be giving interviews, but that won't be real help at all. So we'll see how this comes about. So first we have to understand, when Swami Vivekananda says that we cannot really help the world in the long run, what does he mean? So he explains this with an example. He says, as a boy, I had some white mice. They were kept in a little box in which there were little wheels, like some rotating something, like this. So when the mice tried to cross the wheels would turn round and round, and the mice never got anywhere. So if that merry-go-round is there, you sit there and you think you will reach somewhere, you cannot, because it will just keep on going round and round. So he said the mice never got anywhere. So it is with the world and our helping it. The only help that we get is moral exercise. And if we see impartially, the world is neither good nor evil. Each man manufactures a world for himself. This we see in our lives also. Someone passes away, or if we are suffering some loss in business, or our boss is angry with us, immediately the nature of the world changes. We think, oh, what a horrible place this is, that rascal boss of mine. I did nothing wrong and he has decreased my salary, all that. And immediately when something good happens, we start dancing with joy. So this we can see from our everyday life also. that each moment the nature of the world is changing for us, for an individual. One minute it is good, one minute it is evil. So we are manufacturing our own world. Our mind is manufacturing our old world. So we have seen that hundreds of times in our lives. And as a rule, the young think that the world is a very beautiful place. So much is there to see, so many chocolate ice creams, pizzas, all these are there. And the old become pessimistic. The young have life before them, the old complain that their day is gone. Hundreds of things they wanted to do, poor fellows, they could not do. So each man manufactures his own world. So life, when we say it is good or evil, it is good or evil according to the state of mind in which we look at it. It is neither by itself. We are looking at the world through our minds. So looking at the sun with a colored glass. The sun will appear red if the glass is red. Solar eclipse, if you want to see, black glass is there. So the sun will appear different. So similar with the word. So he says, fire by itself is neither good or evil. When it keeps us warm, we say how beautiful is fire in our chimney, in the home. But if the same fire burns down our house, beautiful, it won't be so beautiful. So in itself, it is neither good or bad. According as we use it, it produces in us the feeling of good and bad. Similarly, the world. The world is neutral, so to say. He says the world is perfect. Perfect means what? Perfect does not mean that everybody is happy here. That is not perfection. If everybody was happy, nobody would even strive for spiritual fulfillment. You would remain in the same rut. So perfect means what? By perfection, it is meant that it is perfectly fitted to meet its end. Means it will go without us. It will continue to function without us. Before we were born, the world was going on perfectly. After we go up, also it will continue to work perfectly. So we need not bother our heads wishing to help the world. That is the first thing. But we have seen that Swamiji himself has said, yet we must do good. The desire to do good is the highest motive power we have as far as spiritual illumination is concerned. That is the only way. But how to do it? That is the thing. Even good works may not lead to spiritual progress. They may be good in the eyes of the world, but they may not lead to spiritual progress. So the way to do it, the way to transform karma into karma yoga is this. Swami Vivekananda tells us. If we know all the time that it is a privilege to help others, then our karma will be karma yoga. Do not stand on a high pedestal and take 5 cents in your hand and say, "Here, my poor man, I am so charitable, I earn 100,000 a day, I am giving you 5 cents. Not that. But be grateful that the poor man is there, so that by making a gift to him, you are actually able to help yourself. It is not the receiver that is blessed, but it is the giver. So be thankful that you are allowed to exercise your power of benevolence and mercy, therefore getting a chance to become pure and perfect. Because all good works help us to make pure and perfect. Perfection is already there inside us, but it has been covered by our worldly tendencies. So those tendencies slowly decrease when we continuously do good. Then he says, what can we do at best if somebody is proud of something he has done? So Swami Vivekananda explains, what can we do at best? Build hospitals, make roads, erect charity asylums. So he describes, in those days also the situation was the same. What he says, we may organize a charity and collect 2 or 3 millions of dollars, build a hospital with 1 million, with the second give balls and drink champagne, and the third let the officers steal, and leave the rest finally to reach the poor. That is what happens. So he says, even if we do that, what are all these? One mighty wind, one earthquake, in 5 minutes can break up all your buildings. One volcanic eruption may sweep away all our roads and hospitals and cities and buildings. So he says, learn from these and let us give up all this foolish talk of doing good to the world. The world is not waiting for your or my help. Thousands of people like us are born every day and they die every day. Nobody even bothers to know about that. So once there was an incident. Swami R Krishna, Shashi Maharaj, he was the first monk of the order, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He was sent to the South India. And the gigantic monastery in Chennai, which you have seen now, you must have gone there, no? So it's a huge place. So the seed was sown by this great Swami. So when he was there, many people used to see him, came to see him. He was a great soul. Not only was he highly spiritual, but he was a Sanskrit scholar par excellence. So many scholars, Pandits used to come and see him. So one day what happened, one Pandit came to see him. So the Pandit had great plans for doing good to the world. So Pandit started his discourse. We should do this, I will have planned to do this, we can do this, later after 5 years we will do something else. So Swami Ramakrishna just sat and listened. He did not say a word. After the Pandit had finished, Pandit asked him, Swami, do you want to say something? So he just said that I was wondering what God was doing before you were born. So Swami Vivekananda just says the same thing. Don't bother your head about helping the world. It is enough if we can help ourselves, purify our own mind. But we must work and constantly do good. Why? Because it is a blessing to ourselves. That is what it is. That is the only way in which we can become perfect. So what follows from this? No person whom we have helped, or no organization or no institution which we have helped in even a little way, owes a single cent to us. We owe everything to them because that has helped us to be of some use. So it is entirely wrong to think that we can do good to the world. It is a foolish thought, he says. And all foolish thoughts bring misery. We think that we have helped some person and expect him to thank us And because he does not thank us, unhappiness comes to us. But why should we expect anything in return for what we do? Expecting return means being attached. I gave something, I want something in return. If nothing else, at least I want him to be grateful. But that is also being attached. So he says, if we are really unattached, we will escape all this pain of vain expectation. After all, what good is a thank you? Suppose he says thank you. What has been achieved by it? Our own egos are pampered by, that's all. Nothing has really happened. So, if we are really unattached, we won't even expect that, and thus we will always be cheerful, whether someone acknowledges what we have done or not. So, whenever misery or unhappiness comes through work, we should remember it is because not of the work, it is because of our own fault of being attached to the work, expecting something. So the world will go on with its happiness and misery throughout eternity. They will always be in balance. It is absolutely wrong to think that the happiness is increasing and misery is decreasing, or we can make that happen. It is impossible. If that happened even to a slight extent in all these thousands of years, would we not have seen something happening in this regard? But when you see what is going on, the same balance is there. Thieves are also there, police are also there. So, this is the nature of the world. The nature of the world, basic nature, cannot change. Each coin has to have two sides. Can you make a coin with one side? Similarly, happiness and misery is what is making the world. Without head, the tail has no value. Without the tail, head has no value. Similarly, without misery, we cannot even give a definition to happiness. What is happiness? It is very hard to define. So each man defines happiness in his own way. Anyway, the thing is, the basic nature of the world cannot change. So, to explain this, Swami Vivekananda again tells it in the form of a small story. What is that? There was a poor man who wanted some money. Who doesn't? And somehow he had heard that if he got hold of a ghost, he might command him to bring money or anything else he liked. So he was very anxious to get a ghost somewhere. So he went about searching for a man who would give him a ghost. In India, they have those tantrics and all that. What is in English? Also, there is a word. What is called?
Okay. Psychics or which?
No, those persons, exorcists or somebody.
Mediums.
Mediums or something like that. So they are supposed to be in touch with some kind of ghost. Anyway, so he wanted to find a person who would give him a ghost. And at last he found a great sage with great powers and asked him, "Sir, please give me a ghost." The sage asked him, "What will you do with a ghost?" He said, "I want a ghost to work for me. So please teach me how I can get one, sir. I desire it very much." But the sage was a real sage. So he said, "Don't disturb yourself. Go home. You won't get anything." But again the man went, and then next day again started to weep. "Sir, give me a ghost. I must have a ghost, sir, to help me." So at last the sage was disgusted. He saw that this fellow will not learn. So he said, "Okay, take this charm. Repeat the magic mantra. A ghost will come. And he will do whatever you want. But remember, these are terrible things. and the ghost has to be continuously busy. if you don't give him any work, he will gobble you up. Yeah. So the man replied, that is easy. I can give him all work 24 hours a day, no problem. So that man took the charm, he went to a forest. After long repetition of the mantra, a huge ghost appeared before him. He said, I am a ghost, I have been conquered with your mantra, but you must keep me constantly employed. The moment you fail to give me work, you are gone. So the man said, okay, no problem, you build me a palace. He thought the ghost will work and maybe take 5 years. The ghost just did some magic. Immediately there was a palace. It is done. Palace is built. He said, what? Okay, you bring me some money. He just waved his hand, ghost, and here is your money. My God, that man was puzzled. So he said, okay, cut this forest down. He thought it will take him 1 year to cut the forest down and build a city. The ghost just waved his hand. That is also done. Anything more? Now the man began to get frightened. So he has eaten more than he could chew. So he said, now what shall I give him? What work shall I give him? He just, one moment he does everything. So poor man could find no further occupation for him and he was frightened. So he immediately went to the sage. So, sage, sir, protect me, protect my life. So the sage asked him, what was the matter? Man said, I have nothing more to give the ghost to do. Everything I tell him to do, he does in a moment and threatens to eat me up if I don't give him work. Just then the ghost also right behind the man. So he said, I'll eat you up. So immediately he would have swallowed that man. And the man began to shake and begged the sage to save his life. So what did the sage say? Okay, don't worry. I will find you a way out. Look at that dog's tail. There was a dog standing there. So there's a dog, you can see. There's a tail. Here's a tail. Cut that tail off. Bring it here. So the man cut the tail off and bring it here. Cut the tail off and brought it there. He said, now give the ghost the tail to straighten it. The ghost took it and slowly straightened the tail like this. But as soon as he released, immediately the tail became as it was. It instantly curled up again. Once more he laboriously straightened it out, only to find it again curled up. So now this went on for days and days. Ultimately that poor ghost was also exhausted. So he said, I was never in such trouble before in my whole life. I am an old and veteran ghost, but never before was I in such trouble. So he said, okay, I'll make a compromise with you. You let me off and I will let you keep whatever I have given you. All the palace, everything. So the man was saved. Man was very much pleased. Naturally, he accepted the offer gladly. So what is the moral? The moral is, this world is like the dog's curly tail. And people have been striving to straighten it out for hundreds of years. But when they let go, it curls up again. It cannot be otherwise. Because all the work which we do has a positive and negative side. So if we think we can only do good without creating evil somewhere, that is impossible. It cannot be. So only, Swami Vivekananda says, only a fanatic thinks that he can change the world. It is a sort of fanaticism. Fanaticism is when there is no rhyme or logic. Something has entered our brain, it has possessed us, we don't want to reason. That is fanaticism. So here also, if we think that we can bring out some tremendous revolution, change in the world which is permanent, it is fanaticism. So he says, Swamiji says, one must first know how to work without attachment. Then one will not be a fanatic. So what is the work without attachment? He said, when we know that this world is like a dog's curly tail and will never get straightened out, we shall not become fanatics. Then we will not expect anything from the work. Because we know all works have to come to an end. The fruits of the work will come to an end. The whole planets one day will be disintegrated. The sun and moon will not be there. So our hospitals, small hospitals or roads will be there. Everything comes and goes. So then we will not be disappointed. Because we never expected anything from the work except self-purification. So if there was no fanaticism in the world, he says, it would make for much more progress than it does now. So always remember, says Swamiji, that the instance of the curly tail of the dog, whenever you have the tendency to become a fanatic, no, you need not worry or make yourself sleepless about the world. It will go on perfectly well without you. So when we don't become fanatics, our mind will not be disturbed. Our mind becomes disturbed when? When we don't get the fruits of the work which we had desired. But if we don't want anything, we build a hospital, even if an earthquake destroys it the next day, we won't be disappointed. It had to go one day. So, we had done for our spiritual progress, that nothing can stop. So, if that is the aim, that is the attitude, then we will never be disappointed. So, we will then become calm. He says, it is the level-headed, such a level-headed man, the calm man, one of good judgment and cool nerves, of great sympathy and love, who does good work and so does good to himself. That is the thing. When one works in that way, then it becomes karma yoga, not before that. So deriding the other view, if you become too proud of what we have done, so deriding that, Swamiji says, my lady goes to the slum. She gives a few pennies and says, my poor man, take that and be happy. Or my fine woman walking through the street sees a poor fellow and throws him 5 cents. Think of the blasphemy of it. You are placing yourself far above that person and think you are doing some great, you are great benefactor. Think of the blasphemy of it, he says. Blessed are we that Lord has given us His teaching in the New Testament. Jesus says, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. So it is blasphemy to think that you can help anyone. First, root out this idea of helping. And then go and do what? Then go and worship, he says. Jesus himself is saying, what you are doing to others, actually you are doing to God. You are worshipping God. Understand that. So Swami Vivekananda says this same thing. First, root out this idea of helping and then go to worship. All are God's children. and you are His servant. So serve the living God. God has come to you in the blind, in the poor, in the weak, in the diabolical also. So it is a chance for you to worship God. The moment you think you are helping, you undo the whole thing and degrade yourself. Knowing this, work. Then work will not be a slavery. This is the whole secret. That's what he says. Then he says, to recapitulate the chief points in today's discussion, he says, first of all, we have to bear in mind that we are debtors to the world. The world does not owe us anything. I got this, I did this, I should have got that. I should have got. This means that the world owes you something. No. The world does not owe you anything. You owe everything to the world. Because it is a great privilege to do anything for others. Why? In helping the world, we really help ourselves. If we really believe that we are helping ourselves, will we expect anybody to be grateful? So even the wish that he goes to such subtle things. He says, he gives an example. I cannot find it right now. But he gives the example that each hospital is praying that more patients should come to them. And if we also think that we should get more opportunity to help others in our pride, then what are we actually thinking, wishing for? We are wishing for that more people should suffer. So he goes to such subtle thinking because we don't realize how much pride is hidden within our hearts. Oh yeah, I found it. So he says, I quote him, every hospital is praying that more and more sick people will come there. Every time you think of doing some charity, you think there is some beggar to take your charity. So if you say, Lord, let the world be full of charitable people, actually you mean, let the world be full of beggars also. If you want the whole world to be full of good words, you also want the whole world to be full of misery. You can't avoid. Both have to go together. So first, don't bother about the thought of helping the world. Do everything because it is a great privilege. You are not doing anything very great. Don't think too much of yourself. Second point is what Sri Krishna said. Swamiji says. Second point is that there is a God in this universe. We forget that all the time. It is not true that the universe is drifting without help and it stands in need of help from you and me. God is always present therein. He is undying and eternally active and infinitely watchful. When the whole universe sleeps, He sleeps not. He is working incessantly. All the changes and manifestations of the world are His. When we realize that, we will know who is actually helping the world, who is actually helping to set the world on the right track. Thirdly, when we know that the world has to be a mixture of good and evil, the evil is also an essential part of the world. When we realize that, we will not hate anyone. Our duty is to sympathize with the weak and even to love the wrongdoer. Love him from a distance. Don't go near. Like Sri Krishna says, everything is God. Tiger is also God, but don't go near the tiger. So here also. So our duty is to sympathize with all and have good wishes for all. And this they did not only say, they practiced. Like when the English were ruling India, just imagine. The English had drained India of everything. And each Indian, patriotic Indian, in his heart, he fostered a deep hatred for these people. But Holy Mother was there at that time. So, when someone told her, actually what was happening at that time, the English, what they were doing to kill the industries of India, they were taking raw materials from India, manufacturing garments, etc., in their mills at a wholesale basis. So, because they did on a tremendous scale with India's raw material, and what they did, they brought these and sold them in India. They are selling our own things to us. And their price was very cheap because they are manufacturing on a whole scale, and India was not advanced at that time. We could not manufacture, we did not have those modern machines. So people were boycotting those. They said, don't purchase those English goods because we'll be killing our own industry. And they want us, they want that. But Holy Mother, some of her disciples, they liked those English cloths. They were very fine quality, you know. In India, hand-woven clothes can never be that fine. That time, those days were those types of days. So some disciples of Holy Mother liked those clothes. So for them, she brought. Okay, you like these? You have these. So when persons protested, that Mother, we have this boycotting is going on, and these fellows, you know what they are doing, all these things they started. So Holy Mother said only one thing, but they are also my children. The English are also my children. The whole world is my children. And Swami Vivekananda says the same thing once. He says, when he had gone to England, you know, for America and England, he had gone on his work, Parliament of Religions and all that. He had toured the whole of Europe. So he himself said after that, when he came, he said, no man landed on English soil with as much hatred in his heart for the English as I did. Because he had seen the tremendous, you know, atrocities the English were committing day in and day out. They were absolutely finishing the country, they were sucking the blood, so to say. So he said, no man landed in England with more hatred for the English. But when I left the country, there was no man who appreciated their good qualities in the way I did. And he came to India and he gave the examples of the Englishmen in some cases. Because each race has something which we can learn from them. So one thing which he liked very much in the English people was their tremendous faith. So he used to, in the lectures, if lectures deliver in India, you hear, he told them, the English boy thinks, I am an Englishman, I can do anything. Do you people, or people of India, do you have that faith in you? You don't have. So he appreciated each and every good quality. So even though the English were the oppressors, he did not have any hatred for them. Yes, this does not mean that we will not fight for freedom. Of course we will fight for freedom. But we will know that even those people can have good qualities and we should appreciate those good qualities. All those, I don't know whether you people are interested in the reading about the Second World War. If you read, there is so much to learn. So much to learn from the various incidents which happened during the war. So at one time, Winston Churchill has written the book. He got a prize for that also. Of course, those who were giving him prize were the most probably his own countrymen. But anyway, that is a masterpiece. The whole Second World War, he has described the event. There are many volumes. I've forgotten the name of the book. So in that there is a chapter. Each one by one what happened. Hitler attacked the countries, Austria, Czechoslovakia, France fell. And before that, at one time, he had practically every country under his thumb. And America had not entered the war. So at that time, that chapter is entitled, England Stands Alone against the might of the Third Reich. So it seemed England had no chance. He would simply pulverize them. All those modern gadgets and all these weapons he had, and all the resources of Europe were at his command. You see, when you capture a country, you capture all the seaports, all the raw materials. So the whole resources of Europe were under Hitler's hand. How could England, such a tiny country, stand up to him? But they did not give up. Winston Churchill's famous speech is there. We will fight on land, we will fight on sea. You can hear that, it's a wonderful. We will never give up. And see what happened at the end. Impossible became. Why? Because of the tremendous faith they had. So, this is the third point he makes. And fourthly, he says we should not be fanatics. Fanatics means we should not see only one side. You see only one point of view, you don't see the other side. You become fanatics. When we become fanatics, we become excited, we become worked up. We lose our mental balance if things don't happen to as per our desires. And when we become disturbed, we cannot do any kind of yoga. Whether it be karma yoga, whether it be jnana yoga, whether it be meditation or anything. Because it is through the mind all activities are proceeding. So the calm person, anything he does, he will do it more efficiently. That's why Swami Vivekananda says, the calmer we are and the less disturbed our nerves, the more shall we love and the better our work will be. So only the calm man, he can work in a proper spirit and thus not only bring joy and peace to other people and of course do the maximum good to himself, purify his mind, attain divine love, attain the grace of God, attain spiritual knowledge, and finally be a blessing to the whole world. That is why Swami Vivekananda says, yes, doing good is the highest motive, helping others is the highest motive. But this help, if we want to transform it into a spiritual practice, the whole science of karma yoga is what? Transforming karma into karma yoga, transforming work into spiritual discipline. So if we want to do that, the proper attitude is what? The proper attitude is this. In Bengali, Swami Vivekananda has written a poem, Sokhar Proti, to a friend. So in Bengali he says, Dao dao phire nahi chao, jodi thake hridoy sambhav. Dao means, Bengali dao means give. Don't ask for anything in return. Yodi thake hriday somar means if you have something worthwhile in you, if there is some good in you, keep on giving. Don't ask for anything in return. It is not a bargaining place. Don't do business every time. That's what he says. Of course, so many other things also he has said about this work, but we will see all those later. I think 1 or 2 chapters only remain in Karma Yoga. So let us stop here. But anyway, these are very, very high thoughts. First, we should be aware. Very few people even think that this is worth doing. The average person is arrogantly selfish. He thinks nothing beyond. The only thing he thinks is what I can get, how much I can get without giving anything in return. Free deals, good bargains, this, that. But we should remember that let alone Karma Yoga, this type of attitude for those who are earning money, for those who are making a living for themselves, this is nothing less than stealing. If you try to get anything without giving anything in return, you are actually stealing. For those who are earning money for themselves. Even, in these computers, nowadays many softwares you will see they're freeware. All those who are aware of this will know. If we use those, mind you, although they are giving free, and if we use those without trying to return in monetary, at least some way, we are actually stealing. Because we are taking advantage of someone's generosity. We are taking advantage of his hard work without giving the slightest thing in return. If there is a scope, if they are getting through advertisements and there is no scope for giving, then it's okay. If there is no scope for giving, that's okay. But if there is scope, some people say that although you don't have to give, but if you want, you can give. Those softwares are called honorware, something like that. So if there is a scope to give and you don't give, it is nothing less than stealing. I'm just talking about software in the course of conversation. Anywhere you go, any place you go, any person you meet, any organization you go, if you are getting something, if you don't return in some way at least, whatever way you can do, it is nothing less than stealing. And people are always hankering for that. How to get something without giving anything. So when that is the mental state, forget about God, forget about yoga. If these people do any good to anyone in any way, that will be, for them it is. So we should remember that these thoughts are very, very high thoughts. Only when a person has risen much above the ordinary plane of existence, when he has really become a very cultured and very noble person and trying intensely to be spiritual, then only he can even think of this. Normal people cannot even think. They don't even bother. They don't even feel the need. So this we should remember, that when we are talking about yoga and spiritual things, we should remember that those are very rare souls who can actually even feel the need for practicing these, let alone really progressing. We should always keep in mind. So let us stop here. Om Shanti Shanti.